Good evening. It's Thursday, and it's time for Call the Wild Outdoors live show, and we'll have our fishing report coming up shortly. Um, a lot of things going on this weekend. Fishing looks like it's going to be good. Um, I know a lot of youths are excited. I've heard the youth hunt's coming up this weekend, so hopefully they'll be nice and successful and safe out there in the woods. Um, I'm trying to start a new segment on my website. It's going to be the trophy book, so send in your pictures. If your kids are successful this weekend on the youth hunt, send in some pictures. We'll get it on the website, and we'll just go from there with it. Hi, Caden. How you doing? Good. When's your first football game? The 12th, huh? That's Tuesday. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping, Doe Hunter. That it's gonna be really nice when I get done with it. I've got a couple of photos to add to it that others have sent me in already. So Elk Rapids, okay. Now I haven't made it out fishing since my last video. The weather up here has just been atrocious when I've had the time. We've had south winds, 3 to 5 foot waves and bigger, and it's just been nuts out there. A lot of charter captains have been canceling trips, and then when there's nice weather, such as um, tonight, it's not too bad, but the waves are supposed to be up to 6 foot, just because there's thunderstorms out there. Um, but tomorrow's supposed to be 2 foot or less, so I'm planning on going fishing after work tomorrow. They've been smashing the coho in Platte Bay, and I want to run into the bay and try and get my hands on some of them coho. So, I always love fishing that bay. It's just a little treacherous to get into it because of the big rocks. All right, let's see here. We'll get right into the fishing report. All right, we're gonna start down in St. Joe. They've had some piss poor weather just like everybody else, and this weather affected pretty much the whole west coast of Lake Michigan. Um, One day we got southwest winds, the next day they're coming out of the west, back out of the southwest, back out of the north. Just water temperature going up, down, all around. It's just been driving the fish batty. Um, but St. Joe, poor weather and heavy waves kept most anglers in all week. Those that did get out reporting a slow bite, but all is not lost down there. There were a few fish caught out to 120 feet of water, fishing 60 to 80 feet down. Plugs and flies seemed to produce the best. I mean. Colors were chromes with blues and greens. Some watermelons and the flies mostly were greens with white boards. Let's see, perch fishing was slow. Last week it had picked up a little bit, but this week it slowed right down. A lot of it has to do with the wave action. And then the pier, fishing off the pier down there is also considered slow to next to non-existent. So that's your St. Joe report. South Haven, again, the perch fishing is very, very slow, and the salmon are slow as well. Water temps are playing a crucial role here. If you can find good water temp, you're going to find fish. We're going to have north winds the next few days, so should have the bite picking up if people are able to get out. It's going to depend on where you're at on wave outtakes. I know Frankfurt tomorrow and Saturday, they're predicted to be 2 foot or less, so it should be pretty calm out there. Manistee should be right around the same. Ludington, things could change, but I believe Ludington's going to be the same. So it just depends on if any storms show up in the area. Now in South Haven, when the people were able to get out, they were doing some decent catches. They're getting some lake trout in waters 100 foot deep and deeper. And they're using spinning glows and small spoons in oranges, blacks, whites, and glows. You're probably going to get tired of hearing the glows, but that's just pretty much working the entire state right now. Certain areas, glow lures, it's a fish magnet right now. So if you don't have any glow spoons and you want to be fishing salmon right now, I'd invest in one or two. Grand Haven, pier action has slowed down due to the water temperature rising. Fishermen have moved out to the 100 to 150 feet of water range and are trolling 50 to 120 feet down. Glow plugs, flies, and some meat rig action. The pier fishermen are fishing way after dark and before sunrise, and they're having sporadic action. And I've got no perch reports at all for Grand Haven. Chances are that's going to be slow as well with the weather that we've had. But if you've been doing any good on perch out of Grand Haven, let me know. I'll get it on the report. Muskegon, a few salmon are still being taken in the channel on chrome plugs and a variety of flies. A few are also being taken around the pier heads using lead core with spoons, plugs. Those are going to be in the chromes with blue, green, glow. And they're doing good on dipsies with flies on setting 3. So what the catch is there, and I've had this happen to me in Frankfurt several times already, once this year, a few weeks ago, is the fish are up high. And when the boat goes over them, it spooks them, so they move out to the side. Kind of like walleye fish in Lake Erie or Lake St. Clair, they move out to the side. So the lures that are running high off the planer boards or off the dipsies and they're running away from the boat, fish are coming by them, whacking it. So keep that in mind when you're out fishing. Okay, they're using 1 to 5 color lead cores, and they're setting the dipsies out 60 to 80 feet. They're not using the Magnum dipsies, they're using the size under. So 60, 80 feet, 20 feet down, 30 feet down, roughly. I don't use those that often, so I'm not 100% sure on it. I probably should have checked on that. But Pentwater, the boats getting out are searching for the fish. The bite is a bit slow, but if you find the pods of fish, action's going to be fast. Chrome plugs and spoons with greens or blues and glows, and then green flies, they're all doing good when the fish are found. So Ludington, the weather's kept a lot of folks in, but those getting out are doing pretty good when finding the temp. south winds this past week, like I said, they've really messed with the fish a bit. So what you're going to want to try out of Ludington area is 120 to 150 feet of water, and you're going to want to work that 45 to 70 feet down. Again, chromes, blues, and the glows. Manistee, same deal. The weather's messed with the fish, so the fish are there, and the boats getting out are doing well, but you got to find them. Chromes, blues, and glows are the color, but they're also catching some on some watermelons. The plugs, spoons, and flies are all producing. There's a few guys running meat. They're catching as well. Now down there are fish in the river. Not a lot of them, but just like Frankfort had, they had a early run. And I know I was down in Manistee the other day, and there is a lot of boats right there off the public access site, off 22 there. Boats are scattered all the way up to the mouth where the river goes out into Lake Michigan. So coming out of Manistee Lake, there are a lot of guys there. I did talk to a few, and they are catching some fish, but they're working for them. So the guys are jigging and trolling there, and they're doing decently. Now with the north winds that we've had, they started yesterday basically. We were 90 degrees up here Sunday and Monday, upper 80s Tuesday. Yesterday evening it started to cool down, and today I think we topped out at 62, and it's all these north winds. So it's going to be doing the same thing to the water. It chilled off everything here, and the water's going to chill. That'll bring the fish back in early, or not early, shallow. What am I saying, early? So you're going to find a fresh batch of the adult fish starting to hang around the pier heads and start staging. And a few fish are being caught off the pier in Manistee when they are able to fish. I can't stress this enough. If you're going out on the pier on Lake Michigan and it's wavy, use caution. Them waves breaking, when they break over the pier, that's serious, folks. Them piers get slippery, and them waves are strong. They can knock you in the water, and there's a lot of big rocks around the piers, especially like the Alberta pier and that. You whack your head on that, you ain't coming back. And there ain't no fish in the world worth your life. If it's rough, stay off the piers. That's all I can say. Every year we hear about people getting washed into the water, and drowning's serious, folks. It really is. It's not worth your life. You can fish in a little closer on the river. Down in Manistee, they got that whole area there between the Lake Manistee and the boat launch. There's boardwalk. There's all kinds of public access. You're going to catch fish there just like you would out on the pier heads. The only difference is you're fishing in the river instead of potentially out in the lake. But them fish are going to be just as fresh, just as silver. Wait till the next day when it's calmed down a little bit, or maybe after dark if the waves reduce, before you get out on that pier. Enough said on that. Alright, Onekama, the guys are fishing pretty much straight out from the piers in 75 to 150 feet of water. They're running 25 to 70 down, which is a pretty wide range, but very doable. They're using lots of lead core down there. 3 color to 10 color. They're using plugs, spoons, flies, and meat are all taking fish. So that's good to hear for Onekama. They've been kind of out of it the last few days, or few weeks. I got way too many pages for this fishing report this week. Okay. Frankfort. We'll start with the Betsy River in Frankfort. Some fish are up, and the guys are doing well in the river. Spoons, plugs, and spawn seem to be what the majority are using. Mornings are best. Um, there's some people where I live. There's a lot of cabins around it that are rented out, and some guys came up. I had given them some spawn, and they went out in the morning and they fished about 5 hours, and they came back with quite a few fish. And they didn't even need any extra spawn from me at that point because they had caught all they needed. They did the same thing on Sunday. So, and they said there was a lot of guys on the river catching fish. So, I do know that things have slowed down a little bit because there's just a few fish running up and down that river, other than that first batch that went. So, Betsy Lake, they have fishing as well, guys. The shore fishermen are catching, and the guys jigging are also doing well. Plugs, spoons, and flies. They're trolling out in the big water. But let's get back to Betsy Lake here. There's some guys trolling back and forth between the pier heads without going out into the lake. It opens up after the canal. Come back up the canal. Of course, there's going to be a lot of boats jigging, but they've forced a channel in there, so you can troll up that channel, get out there, turn around, troll back up, and they're catching some fish. They're using some spoons, flies, plugs. Flies are running on the dipsies, setting 1.5 to 2. There is weeds in there, but the fishing's usually pretty good. The best time to be trolling there is, again, first thing in the morning. Make sure you stay moving because there's going to be boats going in and out. You can't anchor between the little buoys that they have there in Betsy Lake anymore. Got to be moving. And then again in the evening they're doing okay as well. So colors are the chromes and blacks and glows in the morning, and then in the evening they're fishing glows, chromes, and greens. So if that helps you out. Now, guys trolling out in Lake Michigan, they're fishing around the pier heads. 1, 2 color, 3 color lead cores, dragonflies, spoons, J-plugs, chromes, glows, blues, silvers, and what they're doing is they're trolling around there until it gets light, and then as it gets light, they're moving out a little bit deeper, and they're eventually ending up out to 100 and 145 feet of water, and they're fishing from 35 to 75 foot down. So, but they're catching fish. The fish are there. For me this week it was just too bumpy. I just wasn't that, and I didn't want to get the snot kicked out of me to catch some fish. So I guess when you get to be my age, you start appreciating the calm days. All right, Platte Bay. The Platte Bay coho are staging. Some have gone upriver to the first weir. Now, some of you that ain't familiar with the Platte River, there's 2 weirs. There's one, they call it the lower weir. By river, I guess it's 2.5 miles up from the mouth of the river. And they stop the fish there, and they let a certain amount through. Platte River Lake Association, a few decades ago, a bunch of downstaters, and they got a hold of the right lawyer that twisted things around and basically forced the DNR to stop these fish instead of having them go all the way up to the hatchery. The hatchery's up on 669 and M31, past Honor. That's also your second weir. But the Platte River Association, they didn't want all them salmon in their lake, and what it boiled down to is too many people were fishing for them. They didn't like other people using the lake, is what it boils down to. That's what the whole thing is. And they used something about too much phosphorus, contaminants, yada, 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 being in the lake from these fish. it is what it is, and they got the courts to agree with them, so the DNR had to build a weir to stop the fish. Well, anyways, I don't ever remember them letting fish past before Labor Day. I'm not saying they haven't. I just don't physically remember it. And they actually did. They let like 12 to 1300 pass the weir last Thursday or Friday. But they harvested 3,500 of those fish. They use that as a harvest weir. And what they do with those fish is they sell them. And there was quite a few bait shops around the area that had those fish and are turning around and selling them to the sportsmen. I don't think that's right. I know many years ago, you could go to where they were collecting eggs. They had egg collection stations all over the place, and show them a fishing license, and you could take home a salmon for free, as long as you had a fishing license. Apparently, they don't do that no more. They sell it. They're making good profit on that, and they refuse to prove that money goes back into the fishery, which, knowing Michigan, and as we all know, it's not going back into the fishery. They don't do nothing for the fishery. So a lot of people started really complaining. There was some guys on Facebook. I can't remember the name of it, but it seemed like it was Northern Outdoors Expeditions or something like that. But he really started getting into it and called for the resignation of the DNR director, called for Governor Whitmer to replace the director with a biologist. Well, guess what, folks? We got us a new director. He wasn't the only one. He's the one that I heard about it a lot. I tried to get permission from him to post his video on YouTube, and he never bothered to give it to me, so I wasn't able to repost it. But he had a lot of different information on there, trying to get people to call in and just create a ruckus, which needed to be done. And I know some people from downstate were also doing the same thing. Well, apparently it paid off. We have a new director. Don't know if the person's a biologist or not. I haven't really checked into it. But hopefully this crap of selling the fish goes away, unless they're going to put that money 100% back into the fishery, which I'm sure it does. I'm sure it goes into their general fund, which funds all their little parties that they have. Well, going on now, there's still lots of fish below that weir. You know, that sounds like a lot of fish, but there's still a ton of fish below that weir, and they're still locked down. I don't know if they've let any through. I haven't gone over to the weir. They usually post how many they let through, what they let through, because it's surprising. It's not just all salmon. There's lake trout, there's steelhead, there's brown trout that all go past that weir. And they supposedly count them. If you've ever been around there, they use video and everything else. I'm sure their counts are not completely accurate, but close. But anyways, those fish that are down below that weir, they go in and out. They, it's a short run for them to the mouth and then back. And years ago, I fished below the weir. You got to be 300 feet away from it, I think, is a bare minimum. But there's plenty of area down below that weir to fish. And get in there with waders at night, and you're going to get slammed into by fish. And of course, you're fishing flies or spoons or drifting a spawn sack. You will catch fish. You will catch fish. And then I've watched them. I've got it on video. I think I posted the video last year about this time. I was down there during the day and watching fish slide in and out of the mouth of the river. Just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So the guys fishing down at the mouth of the river are going to be doing well too. And after dark, you'll see a lot of guys wading into Lake Michigan right around the mouth. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Platte River. It's super shallow. You got to drag a small boat across there if you launch at the boat launch. So it's more than wadeable. And the fishing is really good. Okay, if you have a small boat and you want to fish like East Bay out there, that's really good fishing as well. You launch at that boat launch, come down, get it out of the mouth. Some of you are going to have to drag it. Sometimes you can catch it right and just coast over by lifting the motor up. Get out into the lake, and all you got to do is go get about 15 or 20 feet from shore. You can drop the motor down, power up, get out a few yards, and you'll see that it don't take long to get deep. You'll be in 10, 11 feet of water. You'll see big rocks down there. You'll see fish taking off from around them rocks and stuff like that. But just follow the shoreline over to the side. You're going to be heading in a northerly direction. And what's going to happen is your shoreline's going like this, and then all of a sudden it's going to take a dip to the east. Alright, keep heading straight. And when you get to about 25 to 30 feet of water, is what I used to do. Slow down, especially if you're going to troll. Start setting lines. Set them about halfway down. Keep trolling straight to the north. And you're going to go to 30 feet. You should have all your lines set by then. And then it's going to start gradually getting deeper. You're going to get to 35, 38, 40. At 40 feet, drop your lines down a few more feet. And then once you hit 50 feet, it's a downward shot like that in this, what they call East Bay. And the fish hold up in this little bay. It's about 2 miles by 1 mile, roughly. They stage in there. So, I mean, it just gets chock full of fish before they run up the river. Well, anyways, at that point, once you hit the 50-foot mark and it drops, usually I pick up a fish right there or two. But you're going to troll until you get about 65, 70 feet of water. And then you're going to turn toward the east and start heading towards shore. Unless you want to be in the deeper water. But if you want to hang 70 feet, start heading toward the shore again. Because at this point, you're past that point, you're probably a quarter mile out. And you can get to within, I'm going to say, 80 to 100 yards of shore. Swing back to the north. Just follow that drop off. And you'll have 2.5 miles to troll that before you need to swing around. And even in a 12-foot, 14-foot aluminum boat, in your swing, you're going to be out to 150 feet of water. You can literally stand at the shoreline there and throw a rock from the shore to 100 feet of water. And you don't have to be a baseball star to do it. It's real close to shore. Then you're just going to troll back and forth in that hole all day long, and you're just going to smash the fish. So, getting it to from the mouth of the river, 12, 14-foot boat, no problem. Coming from Frankfort, if you don't know your way in there, I suggest you follow another boat in that does. Or slow right down to a crawl and just creep in, because I'm telling you, that bay is nothing to play with. You can be... I had a guy that picked up a few years ago, brand new boat in Charlevoix, bringing it back, and he come through Platte Bay. So obviously he swung in probably off the Empire Point there and swung in, and he swore to God he was in 200 feet of water when he came down from the bridge and let his wife take the controls. And he said he no sooner got off the ladder from his bridge and he wham, and the boat come to a screeching halt. And what happened is they hit a rock, and it took out both outdrives. Coast Guard had to tow them in. I ended up replacing the outdrives in it, but that boat was 3 hours old. So don't think just because you're in 200 feet of water, if you're in Platte Bay, that you're safe, because you're not. Now my boat, the Penn Yan, I don't really have to worry about the rocks unless it's rough. My boat don't draft a lot of water, especially on plane, and then my props are up because of the tunnel drive system. But if you got an outdrive, you want to be aware. And I would, if you have GPS, as you're going in, I'd be marking every 100 feet or so, and that way when you go to get out, you'll know the path you need to take. Just plug it in, follow it out, and you're safe, good to go. So enough on that one. Empire. All right, the guys are fishing out of Empire. They're doing really good. Those guys are going to be fishing in Platte Bay. They're launching right there at the beach off Bar Lake, and there's no dock there to launch your boat, so you're going to be getting wet, just like you would at Platte River mouth. You know, you're getting wet. To put your boat at least on the trailer in that current in the Platte River, you're getting wet. You can push it off, have a rope, and bring it into shore without getting wet. And if you're lucky, you don't have to get out of the boat at the mouth. But to put it on the trailer with that current, you're getting wet. So anyways, that fishing report is basically they're running down to East Bay, so the same basic information I just told you as the Frankfurt report, fishing Platte Bay. Leland, weather's been an issue as it has for the entire Lake Michigan coast, but folks are getting out and finding fish in 80 to 150 feet of water, and they're fishing 35 to 75 feet down using chromes with blues, greens, and then glows, plugs, same colors, flies, and spoons. And the flies, white boards, glow, and green boards have all been producing. Charlevoix, trolling around the piers has been steady action using flies and plugs, meat and spoons, chromes with blues, black, red, and then by Medusa Creek, they're doing well in the early hours of the mornings on kings and cohos with a few steelhead tossed into the mix now and then. So if you're familiar with that area by the mouth of the Medusa Creek, so obviously these fish are staging to head in. Petoskey, they're still fishing out to 150 feet of water, 35 to 85 feet down. Again, the chromes are going to be one of the key colors, chromes and glows. And the two to three colors that you're going to team up with the chromes is a little bit of blue, a little bit of green, or a little bit of orange. And then you can also go with the solid colors as well. But for some reason, the chromes are acting like a magnet, just like the glow lures are. So they're using the chromes with the blues, greens, glow flies, and meat. It's mostly kings, but occasional pods of coho are showing up and getting caught, and like I said, a few steelhead. Grand Traverse Bay, salmon are being found all throughout the bay. They're getting them on spoons, plugs, flies, and some meat rigs, and same colors, greens, blues, glows. Watermelons and oranges are also working in the bay. Basically what you're doing is you're targeting halfway down whatever depth you're trolling in waters 100 feet or less, and 75 down if you find any deeper water. Okay, there's a lot of guys trolling off the mouth of the Boardman River. They're still pulling fish. So there's fish there staging, there's fish there just running around the bay, just chomping on the alewives and stuff like that. So you're going to have a good selection there, and there's still a lot of silverfish out in all the ports. Sheboygan, guys fishing a ways out from the mouth are doing fair. Glows, chromes, blues, and greens, pinks, green flies, white rotators, and then there's guys fishing the rivers and the dam. And they're getting a few at night, casting a variety of plugs and spoons and spawn. So, Presqu'île, weather hampered getting out, but those that did have done well. Kings, cohos, and some steelhead, along with some lake trout, have been coming in 45 to 150 feet of water on glows, chromes, blues, reds, and greens. They're all filling the coolers up down there. Flies, spoons, plugs, and squid. The guys fishing the steelhead high, 12 to 35 feet down, they're also catching some bonus walleye, and they found that they catch a few more bonus walleye if they're dragging something gold, copper, or green. So keep that in mind. Bonus fish are always good eating. Rogers City, the guys are fishing Swan Bay from 10 to 105 or 10 to 100 feet of water, using the half down method. So if you're in 10 feet of water, 5 down. If you're in 20 feet of water, 10 down. Um, Catching them on spoons, J-plugs, flies, and squid. They're all pulling fish. Chromes, glows, blues, greens, black, white, and pink are all working. Alpina, fishing the bay early in the morning and waters 20 to 60 feet deep seem to be pretty good for kings. And then also getting out in 80 to 150 feet of water. Produce some action on kings, Lakers, and steelies. Guys didn't seem to notice any distinct color pattern out there. They're just kind of whacking anything that comes by. Personally, I'd be dragging what's been working at every other port, which is your chromes, blues, and greens. But they're saying, man, it don't matter. They're just whacking it. And all I got to do is see it. So, 15 to 70 feet down seemed to be the ticket there. And then they are fishing some walleyes after dark using crankbaits in 10 to 25 feet of water off the North Shore area and the two islands there. So they're doing fairly well. Ascoda. Guys fishing out of the mouth of the Asaba River. We're getting a few kings and cohos this week. They got some warm water just like the Lake Michigan side did, and it slowed things down a bit, but it should pick up this weekend because they're getting the north wind just like we are right now. I'm going to tell you, them fish are there. Guys just ain't going out far enough for them. I haven't been over there, but previous years, the guys fishing usually right around the mouth, they're fishing small boats, 12 foot, 14 foot. And they don't venture very far out there on the Lake Huron side. So they get out a little bit deeper, they're going to find a fish there. No reports of any fish being up the river in any kind of numbers at all. So they're still waiting to stage. Let's see here. Taos. Perch fishing slowed way down, and so has the walleye fishing. A few guys are getting out toward the islands out there, and they're getting a few. And then out by Alabaster as well, but the fishing's been hard, and the water's been heavy, so that's keeping a lot of guys in off the Taos Bay. Augrey, perch fishing's decent to good around the Pine River mouth. They're jigging various things, kind of like ice fishing. Anything tipped with a minnow seems to be producing. They're catching an occasional walleye while doing that, but there's guys fishing out a little bit deeper, out in that 20 to 30 feet of water, and they are catching walleye on crankbaits and crawler harnesses. So, Little Bay Dinock. Trolling and drifting harnesses were doing fair to good on walleye between Ford and Cedar Rivers. Perch fishing is slow, but it's worthwhile. Minnows and worms are what's working for that. Big Bay Dinock. Last week the perch fishing was good. This week it slowed down again, but still worthwhile. The guys are saying it's not a problem to catch good dinner. So, minnows, waxworms, little worms, night crawlers, they're all doing the trick. Okay. Marquette, Munising area. Salmon and lake trout, not a problem getting them. The problem's getting out on the water. If you can get out on the water, you're going to get the fish. Other than that, my reports of the UP with bear season being around are dismal. I mean, I'm having a hell of a time. I call one of my contacts and he's like, "Oh, we're still playing with the bear." But I talked to some guys that I know dip fishing and they don't play with the bears. So, he called me back and he's like, "Yeah, they're getting salmon, they're getting lake trout out there." I'm like, "Okay, any colors?" The fish to bite. They bite. They don't care. They bite. So, apparently you can just drag a hook, then they're gonna bite it, according to this guy. But we know better than that. So, with the lake trout, I'd try the spin and glows, salmon, chromes, greens, blues. So, Grand Marais, lake trout, and a few coho. Um, Guy I fished with there, he got out twice this week, and he said it was, how did he put it with the guys on his boat? A barf fest. So he's telling me it was pretty rough out there, but they got fish. Um, I know they're getting some of the Carp River and Nuns Creek. Also, decent report. Um, so, and your fishing tip of the week. This is geared toward you stream fishermen. This is something that an old timer taught me. It don't work all the time, but it does occasionally work. You get a fish that gets into a log jam and you just can't get him out, and you know you're going to end up snapping your line, which inevitably happens. Take and put a nice bend in there, almost to the point of breaking a line, but not quite. And then most people carry a pocket knife or something with them. Wrap the rod, strike it. The vibrations go up the line, and it does something to the hook in their mouth, and they go nuts. And 99% of the time, a lot of times, they come right back out of that jam the way they went in it, trying to get away from that vibration that's driving them nuts. Now, like I said, it don't work 100% of the time, but if it gets you a fish or two, hey, it's worth it. So that's a fishing tip of the week. Like I said, I've had it work on me several times, especially in fishing the Pere Marquette River. So, take it with a grain of salt. And that, folks, is the end of the fishing report for today. Hello, Pat. Yeah, Doe Hunter, I think a lot of guys are flossing them fish on the Betsy, but there are some people catching legitimate fish. Things have slowed down because they haven't gotten a new run yet. The fish are staging out front. Hi, Pat. No problem. I know the East Bay is basically on fire right now, and that's where I'm going to be heading tomorrow. I'm hoping I can find somebody, a person or two that wants to go out there after I get out of work. It's a long run for just one person. But I do know the salmon fishing's gonna wind down here any day with these north winds. It's not going to be a long drawn out staging season this year. These water temps, they got the fish so confused that I think the fish are going to be around another week or two at the most, and then I think they're upriver. So is anybody getting out hunting this weekend with anybody, or? I get out of work at 5. Where are you going to be camping at? Oh, Timberline, you're just down the road from where I work then. Awesome, Swamp Rat. Yeah, I didn't get a report on the jigging, but I assume that the lake down there had to have some fish in it. I think people like to keep that on the hidden side. And then I have received some reports on things that people have asked me to please don't make it public, and I honor their requests. They give me reports on something else, and I throw that in there. But I don't give up nobody's hot spots when they tell me something if they ask me to keep it quiet. It's like I was given It's going to end up happening next year. Guy's going to take me out perch fishing to one of his spots. So I'll have a place up here to get some perch, because that's my jam. I grew up down in Detroit area, down by Lake St. Clair, and perch and walleye. Yeah, perch are my absolute favorite, and then walleye, bluegill, and crappie, they come in second. So, and then you take like a 18-inch or smaller channel catfish or some bullheads. Them are hard to beat as well. I'd have to actually rate those into the number 2 fish as well. As far as salmon go, they're my least favorite fish to eat. I do like an occasional coho, the smaller ones, but I like smoked salmon a lot. But to me, I'm just not a big salmon eater. And I am going to be doing up some smoked fish here shortly. I want to catch a couple coho to put on my smoker. Coworker was kind enough to give me the recipe to a brine that he used, and he brought a piece of smoked fish in. I'll tell you what, that was some good smoked fish. And he's like, "Oh, I smoked it too long," and I said, "No, there's no such thing as smoking fish too long, unless you dry it out. Oh, it's just got too much smoke flavor." No, that never happens, and I was right. That fish was good. So now I've got a decent brine recipe. I'm going to smoke up some fish. Might be able to get it done this weekend. I don't know, but that's one of the reasons I want to get into East Bay. One, I've caught gazillions of fish there. That's where I taught my boys how to salmon fish, and they caught gazillions of fish in there, and I got to be the proud dad that watched them reel them in, and all I got to do was net them, which was fine by me. I thoroughly enjoyed those days. And they were awesome about it, because I'd work all day and then we'd go out fishing. They got to catch all the fish and never once made me get out of the boat to push across the sandbar if we had to. They always drug it across. So yeah, doe hunter. I've been in that situation too, especially when I lived downstate. And I'd make a couple trips to Lake Erie or whatnot, and yeah, you get tired of them. But now moving over to this side of the state, where there's not a lot of places to fish walleye for me, I get out walleye fishing once or twice a year. You appreciate them a whole lot more, and you don't get tired of them. And then the perch over here, like in Crystal Lake and that, you hook up with a bunch of 13 to 15 inch yellow pellies. I'm telling you, man, there's just nothing better. But it's not something you can go do all year long out there. The fish are there, but to put that kind of time and effort in, because if you're from the Detroit area, you get out in 4 or 5 feet of water and throw a piece of night crawler out there, you're going to get all the perch you want. Same thing up in Lake Huron by Escoda. I used to fish out in front of my grandma's cottage right on the lake, and we'd catch all kinds of perch. Piece of night crawler, cast it out right from shore. Yeah, here in Lake Michigan, you throw a piece of worm out there, you'll be a skeleton before you ever catch a perch up from shore off here. They don't play that game. You better be in minimum of 35 foot of water if you're going to catch perch. And then even when you're still in 35 feet of water, the chances of you catching them on a worm is 1 out of 100 that you're going to catch, if it's even that high. Basically, if you don't have wigglers, you're not really perch fishing over on this side of the state. Now, over on Lake Huron, Lake St. Clair, you can fish with wigglers all day long and never catch a fish. But here, you got to have the wigglers. And wigglers will outfish minnows hands down all the time. But I've seen where in Lake Michigan we've used leeches, small crayfish, wigglers, and perch minnows, and then the blue shiners even to catch perch here. And I'm telling you, they'll engulf a blue shiner like nobody's business. They definitely think they're walleye over here. But again, like on Crystal Lake, to really get into them, you got to be ice fishing or in May. What's my best fishing story? Oh my God, I've got a million fishing stories. Oh. I'll have to think about that one, and maybe that'll be a good topic for next week. I'll think about it because I've got a million of them. I mean, I've caught channel cat on jitterbugs in a pour down rainstorm. So thought I was fighting me a nice bass, and instead I pulled in a channel cat. And then I've caught water snakes on my stringers of fish. That was up here, as a matter of fact, fishing Lake Dubonnet on the island. We had some nice bluegills, and water snake decided they were his. So I had to protect my fish from the water snakes. And if you know water snakes in Michigan, they can get pretty aggressive. Yep. Some people call them water moccasins, but we don't have water moccasins in Michigan. The only venomous snake we have in Michigan is a Massasauga rattlesnake. And I played with gazillions of those as a kid over in the Tawas-Haskoda area. And they're not very aggressive. The only one I ever had or ever seen that had any kind of aggressive attitude to it, I was fishing on the Pere Marquette River down by Walhalla. And my boys, my youngest was 3, maybe 2. Oldest was 4 or 5. And they're running back and forth between their mother and me. And this snake was on the grass behind me, so I was just going to grab him and throw him on the other side of the river. And I used my fishing rod. Now, granted, it was a hot day. And normally you don't even see this, but I was using the handle I was going to push his head down and grab him and just walk him across the river and turn him loose. And he bit that handle twice. Normally they're pit vipers. They only strike at heat, so the handle must have been hot from me holding it. But I'm like, okay, so I had to get out of the water and use my wader boots and everything else. It's not easy to not hurt something when you're stepping on it in waders and catch a snake to get it over onto the other side. That's the only one I've ever had strike at me. Something had him mad. But now, if you do get bit by a Massasauga rattlesnake, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not deadly. If you're allergic to bee stings, you'll definitely want to go to the hospital. All right, have a good one. But their venom's about as powerful as a bee stings. But I'm sure the fangs hurt when they get you. I've got some crazy fish stories, including one out on Selfridge Air National Guard Base, fishing out there in front. It was calmer than calm, and trying to fish walleye. We were hoping to drift fish, and there just was zero wind. We sat in the same spot, so we ended up kind of jigging with crawler harnesses because we didn't even have jigs with us. But we had one walleye, about a 14-incher in the cooler. Well, there was a really big unmarked boat out there that year that was sinking smaller boats. We were in a 15, 16-foot runabout. Not a very big 15 to 16-foot runabout, but guy shut down his boat, and he's like a 33 to 35-foot boat, literally 5 foot off my transom. And if you know what happens when a big boat comes down off plane and just throws a wall of water, that wall of water just washed right over my motors, the transom, the whole 9 yards, sunk us. I lost a fishing rod out of the deal, and a tackle box. My ex-father-in-law that was with me at the time, he lost a fishing rod. He got 2 of his fishing rods back, and he lost a small tackle box but got his big tackle box back. I even had a unopened pack of cigarettes sitting in the gunnel. I got them back when the boat literally rolled over, and when they hooked up to it and started pulling on it, it came back up on top and that. And I took the motors off of it. But long story short, got most of my fishing tackle back. Everybody got most of their stuff back, actually. And we got our fish. Most expensive 14-inch walleye ever. And none of us got hurt out of the deal, so. My ex-brother-in-law was trapped underneath the boat for a second. I was diving down, getting underneath the boat, and I'd quick come up, get a breath, go back down, because obviously the bow of the boat's floating, even though it's upside down. There was plenty of air trapped underneath there. And my father-in-law, or ex-father-in-law, but he was a father-in-law at the time, he was hanging onto the boat and using his feet and sweeping, and he found him. His son grabbed a hold of his leg and he swept him out from underneath the boat. Definitely a learning experience. I guess we were the 8th or 9th boat that the guy had sunk that year. What was really upsetting was there was probably 50 boats around us all fishing. 45 of them packed up and left. Didn't offer no assistance, nothing. They didn't want to be no part of it. They just up and left. And there was 5 boats. One boat wanted to come in. I kept him because we had enough stuff floating. I kept him from coming in too close. I didn't want him getting his prop damaged. And I swam out to him, grabbed the line, and swam him back in. And he hooked up to the front of our boat waiting for the sheriff to come out there. The other boats, they were running around picking up stuff that was trying to float away. So, thanks to them all these years later. That happened in 1991. All these years later, unfortunately we weren't able to get their names or nothing like that, but it was really nice to have that, and they saved us a lot of cash. So, and then the people that tied up to our boat, the first thing, I put my father-in-law and son or brother-in-law on the boat, and I was swimming back to get some stuff, and of course, not the smart thing to do, but you're not thinking in a situation like that. And they talked me into getting inside their boat, and they says, we got people going around getting the stuff, don't worry about it, yada yada yada. But the first thing they did was give my father-in-law and brother-in-law blankets, and then they offered me one. Of course, I didn't need one. It was hot out that day. Sheriff's department gets there, and my father-in-law and brother-in-law both had to ask them for a blanket. They didn't. And then they were put out to give us a blanket to use. And by that time it was dark out, so. He's like, yeah, guy's been doing that. We've been looking for him. He's been doing that all summer. I gave him the description of what I seen of the boat, and yep, that's the same boat. Well, find him. It's not hard on Lake St. Clair. So. But go a little over and create a wake in a no wake zone out in the middle of BFE, they'll pop you in a heartbeat, but they don't pop the guys that are sinking boats. Just my rant for the day. Yeah, Doe Hunter, if you want to go into the bay tomorrow with me, you're more than welcome on the boat. No problem. Bring whoever you want. Like I said, I get out at 5. I'll be down to the boat about 5:30ish. The boat's docked in Alberta at Betsy Bay Marine. Or if you want to, you can come down to my shop. It's across from the Tractor Supply store. It's called Marine Tech. Just ask for John. I can't guarantee we'll catch fish, but I'm 99.9% sure we'll catch some. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, if you can get set up fast enough. That's right. Hey, free boat fishing. And I'm fully equipped. I got lead core, I got dipsies, I got downriggers. And I don't care if I reel in a fish as long as I get to take home one coho if we catch multiple ones. And you're going to be filmed, obviously, because I haven't been able to get out all week, so I've got nothing for a video. I was actually going to fall back and do a stream fishing, which I still might do later this weekend. I want to do a catch, clean, and cook on small trout. But rather than do the Betsy River here by my house, I want to go down, run down to the Pere Marquette, but that might not be a smart move if they got some salmon up in there. A lot of times it's hard to catch them small ones when the salmon are in. Well, I can always blur it out. Besides that, I'm sure you've seen the videos that I have. Most of the time it's the back anyways, so the camera's stationary on the boat. I know my buddy that told me about the fishing, they're getting some pretty big cohos out there too. He did catch a couple kings, but some of the coho are running a little on the big side. And I've fished that bay, like I said, at least thousands of times, so I do know it pretty well. I haven't fished it thousands of times with the big boat, just a few times, but I've never been skunked in there. So, matter of fact, one of the videos, it'd be a couple years back now, Summer's first coho. That's my ex-wife's daughter. Her name's Summer. And she got a little seasick. We had the wrong winds for fishing in the bay that day, but I went in there anyways, and we had a few get on, and she got her first coho that day. And if you do make it and you got a favorite lure you want to run, that's fine too. You can set a rod up with it. But like I said, I'm fully equipped on the boat. I'm hoping that we get some pictures from the kids that are successful on the hunt this weekend for our trophy page that's going to be on the website. I'll be working on that some tonight and try to get that up. And if you haven't hit the like button yet, smash that like button. It does help the algorithm so other people see the show. And I'm going to do a big giveaway at 1,000 subscribers. That's my next goal. We're over 100 right now, so I am going to give away a rod and reel combination or a trolling reel, the winner's choice. And I might just pick two winners. I haven't completely decided how to do that yet. One would get the trolling reel and one would get the rod and reel combination. The rod and reel combination is a open face spinning reel on a rod, um, fully equipped line, all brand new. And the trolling reel will be one of these Saga lines that I have that I'm using on my boat. Of course, I got brand new ones that wouldn't be a used one. And I will outfit that with the pound test line of your choice in braid or monofilament, or both, a combination of both. And I was going to pick the winner for the fly tonight, and I just that the program that I got that's supposed to pick it, I couldn't get working just yet, so we'll do it next week. So if you haven't sent me an email to get entered in that, send an email to callthewildoutdoors1@gmail.com, or you can address it to webmaster@callthewildoutdoors.com. Either one will get you registered, and I will do that next week if I got to write everybody's name down and just put it in a hat and pick it. It's going to be your choice of a trolling fly and or a crankbait of some kind. I've got minnow imitations. I've got all kinds of little crankbaits, all different sizes. So, and what I'll do is I'll get a picture of the various baits that I have that are all brand new, still in the packages, and you'll get your choice. Or like I said, not everybody trolls for salmon, but or a custom trolling fly for salmon fishing, and that can come already set up, ready to hook right to your swivel, or it can come with the line so you can adjust your own leader length. And it has a they're high quality treble hooks anyways. I don't mess around with that kind of stuff, but so is anybody taking any kids out hunting this weekend? Hi Jeff, welcome to the show. The fishing report's already been done, but the replay without chat shows up usually within a couple minutes of me closing out the show, so you can go through and watch the fishing report. And basically I cover Lake Michigan shoreline from southern Michigan around to roughly Augrey area, and then I try to cover more of the UP than what I've been able to cover the last few weeks, but all my contacts up in the UP are out playing with bears right now, so yeah, I used to love taking my boys out hunting for the youth hunt. It's always a good time. They're running it early this year. They used to run that like either the last weekend in September or the weekend before the last weekend. I guess there's a doe hunt going on next weekend. It's open to anybody with private property doe permit. I haven't even looked at the rules and regulations this year. I'm just going by what I'm being told. I'm not even sure if my grandson's hunting the youth hunt this weekend. He was on earlier. I should have asked him, but He's pretty heavy into the football, so I'm sure he's probably got practice or something. Yeah, bow hunting, everybody should be still taking a few target shots every day, getting your arm built up and getting your aim steady. I don't know. Let me see when October 1st is. I normally don't hunt the first. Well, the first is on a Sunday this year. I normally don't hunt it because it's still a little bit warm. But damn it, I'm getting a hankering to hang in a tree stand for a while. So I might just get out there and with the intentions of maybe getting a squirrel dinner or something. Yeah, I use a crossbow as well. I also have my compound bow. I love that compound bow. I've had that since 1987. I picked it up the day I got married, as a matter of fact. Um, that has been really good bow for me. But with my shoulder being so out of whack, I'm not even sure if I can shoot it. I haven't gotten out yet. I'm planning on doing some of that this weekend. But I do like using the crossbow as well. They both have their advantages. I know deer coming in behind me, they're way easier to get a shot at with a compound bow than they are that crossbow, but it is what it is. I know I can shoot deer a lot farther away with my compound bow than I can my crossbow. My crossbow's only good to about 30, 35 yards. It drops so fast. Just no weight there, and I'm shooting a Martin Cougar glass mag for my compound bow with full length 2216 arrows, and usually I try to put 175 grain broadheads on it, and that thing that'll sail an arrow. When I practice, putting it right through a deer at 65 yards is simple. Well, my compound bow, I bought it, or not compound bow, my crossbow. I bought it, I believe, in 2010. It's a Horton, and it's only a 150-pound draw. You really got to go through a lot of hassle to put a scope on it. It's got peep sight on it, so I'm just running off of pin sights. Um, I got it pretty cheap, and I will invest in a better crossbow. But this one right now, I don't use a cocking device for it. It's got the foot peg. I just put my foot in it, pull it back, lock it in place, put the thing on it, so I can get a second shot off if need be. Pretty quick. And I've been enjoying it. And the nice thing is some of the women that I've dated, they've had younger kids, and they always want to get out hunting with me. So I would use my compound bow. I'd get them practiced up on the crossbow, and you can get a really young kid out bow hunting with a crossbow. You just got to be close to them, that's all. But that is sure an advantage to a crossbow. And usually, if they can shoot a BB gun or a 22 accurately, they can start shooting that crossbow accurately within a couple shots. And then I've got my compound bow set at 63 pounds. Strangest thing on that. If I set it at 65, I start getting the shakes. When I draw back, a deer looks at me and I'm holding for too long, I start getting a little bit of the shakes. 63 pounds, I can sit there and hold that thing forever. Just 2 pounds. And it's been like that forever. And I've shot my friend's bow This was years ago. He was shooting 80-pound bow. I could pull that back and shoot target shooting. I wouldn't try to deer hunt with it because I couldn't hold it back long enough. That was a 30% let off, I think. And I think my Martin, it's not quite 50%, but it's close. But you wouldn't think 2 pounds would make that much difference, especially back in the days when I was shooting a lot. But it does. Makes all the difference in the world. But I used to shoot an old recurve bow when I was a kid, shooting water snakes and carp and stuff like that with it. Um, I, for most shots, I don't even need sights on it. Took a little bit to get used to that Martin because it's a flat, very flat shooting bow. Like I said, with the full length 2216s, because I need it for my draw length, and that one had 175 grain satellites on it at the time. So I was using a 175 grain practice point, and on the chronograph I was still, 215, 216, 218. Which that isn't that fast nowadays, but back in the day when I bought the bow, it was considered the fastest bow on the market back in 1987. And the deer don't duck that one. It's noisy, but they don't duck it. And more often than not, I go through, if I hit him in the shoulder blade, it goes through and most of the way through the other one. I had a doe I shot one day, and this was what ruined me on opening day hunting. I was walking out to my stand for an afternoon hunt, and somebody pushed a doe past me, and I shot her on the run at about, I don't know, 25, 30 feet. Dropped her like a rock, and then she got back up and took off. And I had gone through both shoulder blades on her, and I had a piece of arrow on that side. On the one side with the points was about that long that was broke off, and about the same amount, maybe a little bit more on the outside, and then the rest of the shaft was inside of her, going through the shoulders. So I got plenty of penetration with that bow. I don't like shooting them in the shoulders if I don't have to, but if I hit bone, it goes through it. I'm not 100% sure the compound bow or the crossbow will do that. But the couple deer I've taken with it, I mean, it's complete pass-through shots. And then they stick in the ground, so just the veins are sticking out. But as much as that thing drops, and I sighted in at about 25, 28 yards, as much as it drops from that first sight pin to a 35-yard shot, and I don't think it would penetrate a shoulder blade. At least not like that compound bow does. But I'm also shooting 125 grain tips with it, and the bolts themselves are carbon, so they're not very heavy at all. There's just no residual power there. Yeah, that was the one thing I did notice about my compound bow is when I took it out in cold weather, and I found this out the first time. It's the only deer I've missed with that bow. I shot underneath it, and the first shot when you take it out into the cold, it shoots real low. But if you take the bow, pull it back to full draw, let it up, and you do that twice, it's not a problem. And you do that once you get into your stand. It's had a chance to cool down, and just that flexing, it don't shoot low. Yeah, in a heavy weather suit, I don't know if I'd be able to even draw back the 80-pound bow because it wasn't smooth. And I set the weight up in my bow so that I can just hold the bow straight out from me, grab the strings. I don't use a release or anything like that. And I grab the string and I just pull straight back. No other movements in my body. And I can do up to 70 pounds that way, no problem. But and I can shoot left-handed or right-handed, either one. Probably can't shoot left-handed right now. My shoulder is really, really whacked on the left side. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to bow hunting. Yes, it does. Yep. Your mind tells you can still do stuff that you were doing 10, 15 years ago, and your body just tells you, no, you're not. And, you get into that inner argument with it, and your body's like, okay, go ahead and try it. Then you feel that twinge, and then their body laughs at you and says, now you're going to feel this for a week, buddy. Just like last year, ice fishing out at Muniscan Bay. I got an old ice fishing shanty. It's a foldable one. I can't think of the brand name of it, but it's got the plastic floor in that. It's got the indentation so you can put your 5-gallon buckets in it and stuff like that. I put all my gear on it, and I started dragging it out. And if you've ever fished up at Muniscan Bay, you got to walk a long ways out, and you're still only in 4 feet of water, but you got to get a long ways out. And there was a little bit of snow on top of the ice. Well, there was a lot of bit of snow on top of the ice, but the thing is when I went out, it was completely frozen, just like you're walking on ice, so it wasn't no problem. Yeah, well, the sun came out and it got to over 40 degrees trying to drag that thing in. Yeah, I went and bought a jet sled before I went out the next time. And different portable shanty. It doesn't have a floor. And 20 years ago, that wouldn't have been no problem. I could have had a kid sit on the thing and drug them out there. Now it's like, that's work. And then I really noticed the difference too in my line of work, working on boats, replacing batteries on a boat. I used to walk up with a marine battery in each hand and pick it right up above my shoulder, stick it over the wall of the boat, and jump on the ladder, get inside the boat, and put the batteries in. Now I'm lucky I can put one over the gunnel of a boat with 2 hands. I can still carry 2 of them in each hand, but I can't lift them up. Yes, it does. I do have a quad runner out there. I got to finish rebuilding the engine on, and I'll be using that up in Muniscan Bay from now on. I loved fishing up there. That was always my bucket list trip, and I finally got up there last year, and it was definitely worth it. I had a lot of fun. The only thing is, if you're used to jigging like off the Thames River in Lake St. Clair through the ice, where you're out in 15, 20 feet of water, or maybe out off the spillway where you're in 8, 10 feet of water, up in Muniscan Bay, you're lucky to have 4 foot of water underneath the ice, and you cannot see bottom. And them fish, them walleye, they didn't even start biting up there until about 9:30 in the morning, and they were still biting when I left. But I knew it was going to be a challenge getting back to the shore, so I wanted to get off the ice. It was starting to really warm up. I wanted to get off the ice before the shanty would start sinking down in that snow too much, which it paid off doing that. But the problem was I was setting the hook and bouncing the fish off the ice. You got to you got to train yourself to not set the hook so hard when you're jigging. I probably lost, I'm going to say 15 fish that first day doing that. You know, and then the last, well, since 93, I'm going to say, 90% of my ice fishing has been on either Crystal Lake or Long Lake over by Interlochen. And I'm fishing 25 feet of water in Long Lake for walleye. And then on Crystal Lake, I'm fishing 50 to 60 feet of water for perch. So, I have not. And I haven't heard about it, but I will still check. I will definitely check on that. All my perch fishing since, oh, I'm gonna say 98 has basically been on. When I deliberately target perch, I just go over to Crystal Lake, and I do real well over there. I won't even keep them unless they're 11 inches long. And if you look at my the COTW Outdoors Facebook page, the main picture in there is a bucket of perch. Those are Crystal Lake perch. So it looks smaller in that bucket, but every one of them was. I think my smallest one in there was about 10 and a half or 10 because there was a couple of them that actually swallowed the Swedish pimple that I was jigging with, and they weren't going to live, so I kept them. Oh, I believe it. I believe it. I know I got some nice perch up in Muniscan Bay this past winter. Them and the pike bit long before the walleye did, but I had them inside in the bucket, and of course, you know, they're bouncing around and everything else, making all kinds of racket. So after I iced the first walleye and stuck him outside the shanty in the shade on top of the ice, I just put all my perch there. And by the time I had my second walleye there, I heard a ruckus out there open up. And a seagull had stole one of my big perch. He's flying off with it. So I can't do that with the perch anymore. I have to start keeping them in a little cooler or something out there. I know this year I'm hoping Lake St. Clair gets some safe ice just so I can go back down there and reminisce being a kid. Maybe do a little pike spearing up in Anchor Bay. I know we used to go all over the ice there at 11.5 mile road, and I don't even think it freezes there anymore. And it was not uncommon for us to walk a mile out on the ice and fish for perch. We were still in 5 feet of water, but you could catch perch that far out off of Martin Road Pier there by the Bruce Post. The Bruce VFW Post, I should say. I used to bike to that pier every day in the summer when I was a kid. Caught a lot of everything off that pier. Perch, rock bass, bluegill, bass, pike, walleye, a couple of muskies, channel catfish, carp, goldfish. And in the wintertime, we'd set shanties up and spear gizzard shad as they'd come through by the school full. And they'd get, 12, 18 inches long, and spearing them with a little frog spear. It was a lot of fun. Throw them out on the ice to feed the seagulls. I'm gonna get some boat winterizing videos up as well. I think I figured out how to section that off. I'll do one on outboards, one on IOs, one on inboards, 2-stroke and 4-stroke variances, PWC, and that way if anybody needs to winterize something and they maybe they've never done it or they need a little help with something, they can reference those videos. Alright, well, I guess I will call it a night. And Doe Hunter, if you're still on, hopefully you get all set up and you can head out fishing with me tomorrow. You and your wife. And if not, get a hold of me through the website, or you know where I work now at Marine Tech. I'm down there. And I'll probably get out a couple of times this weekend, and you're welcome to go anytime I'm going out. So I'm always looking for somebody to go fishing out on a boat. I am going to probably pull the boat the last weekend of September. So if anybody's going to be up in the area between now and then and wants to go out fishing, let me know. I'll be more than happy to take you out there. I know where some 2 and 3 year old fish are, so even once the adult fish go up river and are gone, we can get into some 2 and 3 year old silverfish. Lake trout will be closing the end of the month, but I can get you into some lake trout. Just going to depend on the weather. The weather gets kind of iffy this time of year. So, alright, everybody, good luck this weekend, whether hunting or fishing. Tight lines or straight shots, either one. Good luck to all the kids out there on your youth hunt, and send me your pictures. We're gonna have a trophy book page on the website. So we'll see everybody back Thursday at 7:30, and I may go live from the boat if I have the time fighting a fish. Alright, good night everybody.